From the city lights to the country blue, Woody and Lou got the sports for you. From Boston streets to Kentucky's fields, get ready, folks, for the thrill it yields. Woody and Lou, sports and you, talking games, we love it's true. Every play, every score, let's dive in, it's time for more. Lacing up the boots and calling plays, debates and laughs for all the days. From Fenway Park to Derby Run, sports talk magic just begun. Woody Lou, sports and you, sideline stories coming through. Every cheer, heartbeat soar, tune in now, we'll give you more. Celtic screams to Wildcats roar, touchdowns, goals, and so much more. Grab a seat, enjoy the ride, Woody Lou right by your side.
The views expressed by the hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Department of Defense, the U.S. government, or any of its agencies. The information provided is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. No attorney-client relationship is formed by providing this information, and nothing herein should be relied upon as legal counsel. For legal advice specific to your situation, please consult a qualified attorney. All right, Braxton, we're live. Good evening.
Good evening, Dan. Welcome everyone to episode 7 of Woody Lou Sports and You, coming off the heels of the first 2 rounds of March Madness. Dan, how did the weekend go for yourself?
I had a great weekend, Braxton. It was great to be back in the States for an amazing American institution, the College Basketball National Tournament. And I consumed a lot of hoops, got out on the golf course, and it was a beautiful, beautiful weekend here in Savannah, Georgia.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't get to watch as much basketball necessarily live. On Thursday, obviously had work during the day, and then Thursday night we drove down to Panama City. So I watched a little bit at work, and then the rest of the day was full radio action on Sirius XM, which I wasn't necessarily complaining about, but it got me through the drive all the way to Panama City. So Thursday started off good, and then got to slowly start watching the games a little bit more as the weekend went on.
How long the drive was up to Panama City?
6 hours ish. It wants to take you back roads through Valdosta and stuff like that. We head south to Jacksonville and then just go straight left or west rather. Stay on the interstate the whole time. Makes the drive a little more enjoyable for the family.
So I guess we get right into it, Braxton. What were your highlights from the first and second round of the basketball tournament?
I think for the tournament started off, you had Louisville and Creighton, very first game of the tournament. The last time that Louisville led off the tournament as the number 1 game, it was back in 2013. I don't remember what happened to Louisville in that tournament, but that was the last time they started off, and they were in Rupp Arena. So I was expecting a big crowd, and they had a decent amount of fans show up, which, Louisville fans tend to show up whenever things are good and not when things are bad. But I was happy to see them kind of come out to Rupp Arena, and watching them just get absolutely torched by Big Blue Creighton. I don't want to say I enjoyed it because I thought they were misseeded a little bit. I thought they, getting an 8 seed was inappropriate. I thought they were more of in that 5 to at least 7 range. So I thought they were underseeded, but did not live up to the expectations. They got smoked, and then everyone quickly reminded us that Louisville was playing whenever they started throwing water bottles towards the end of the game. So I think that really set off March Madness for me with the tone. And really, Dan, just let you go here in a second, but to cap off Thursday for me was, like I said, listening to it on the radio, which I enjoy. But Calipari's squad, listening to that game while driving through, the dark of Florida And you got Calipari, Bill Self, two awesome coaches. Cal has met Bill Self in the NCAA tournament. I think that was their fourth time, or maybe it was their third. They met in the national championship back in 2012. I think
we don't really know what happened to Memphis that year, though. I don't know about that.
Yeah, Memphis, Kansas, Kentucky, Kansas, 2012. But listening to that game, it had all the makings of a Calipari game. They were the underdogs. No one expected anything. They played good enough to be in the lead and in the game for the majority of it. And then in the second half, Bill Self made an adjustment called change his defense, throw in his zone. And Calipari responded with no adjustment. So while driving and listening to it, I thought Calipari was going to lose that game. That's a classic game. Cal loses. But ultimately, he did not lose it. He ended up beating Bill Self. So that was really the nightcap for me Thursday night before we got settled in Panama City.
So, yeah, you brought up Louisville having the first game of the tournament in an early exit. And I think just a real like microcosm of the ACC and how down they have been. And talking about conferences, the lack of diversity amongst the remaining teams, and there only being 4 conferences represented going forward, Sweet 16 and beyond. Just the SEC, 7 teams, so half of the teams that made it to the tournament, that record 14, Big 12, Big 10, and then the lone ACC representative with Duke. You have any takes on this historic lack of diversity amongst the conferences in the Sweet 16 and on in the tournament?
Well, I want to be careful here because I believe some people might jump to some conclusions and point at the NIL and the transfer portal era taking away parity in college sports and resulting in no Cinderellas. I don't think that's true. I think this was a year where I really think just like the great teams were at the top. And we saw that because going into the Sweet 16, we pretty much ran chalk. The really only outlier is the 10 seed Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Everything else went pretty much chalk-ish. And there's no Cinderellas in the Sweet 16, but I don't think NIL and the portal is a reason for that. It's just a year we just don't have one, and that's okay. And as far as the SEC, get 14 teams into the tournament, and then before Ole Miss played, it already tied the record of 6 teams making it to the Sweet 16. Ole Miss ultimately won last night, pushing them over the hump to 7 teams in the Sweet 16. So we're right below 50% of the teams are in the SEC. And I think that goes back to, Greg Sankey wanting the SEC to prioritize basketball just as much as football. And we've seen that. All the SEC schools, for the most part, have really gotten on board or tried to get on board with that. And you see that with Texas immediately firing their coach and hiring Sean Miller immediately after they get bounced. So the SEC is taking it seriously. And I don't think I don't think we should read too much into it, personally.
That's counter to what a lot of the national media and talking sports heads are saying. So I do like that take, Braxton. We only have 2 years of NIL, so it's a small sample size, as well as the transfer portal, not having to sit out a year for your transfers. It's an interesting thought exercise, I guess. These are kind of dumb questions, but does like a Steph Curry out of Davidson with NIL and transfer portal, is he staying at Davidson for his entire college career and having those runs that Davidson had, that carrying the team on his back in March?
And probably not. But I don't know if we're having this conversation if Colorado State ends up holding on and Maryland doesn't hit a 20-foot or 20-step layup that was not a travel. Colorado State could just as easily be in the Sweet 16 right now, and this would kind of be a moot point. Same with, look at it. If you're looking at the scores, UNC Wilmington lost Texas Tech by 10. They went on to beat Drake by 13, and those are good wins, but there's so much an imbalance. You had McNeese beat Clemson. McNeese came out flat against Purdue, but they had all the makings of a typical Cinderella The difference is they came up a game short. And, as long as they get to the Sweet 16, typically that qualifies as the Cinderella team. You had St. Peter's made it to the Elite Eight back in 2021. You've had plenty of examples, even more recent than that are kind of escaping my mind right now because I've been tuning out of the March Madness a little early, given Kentucky's results in the recent years. But it's a one-off, and the SEC was great this year. Arkansas was the 13th seed in the SEC tournament. They played on opening night, Wednesday night, and they're in the Sweet 16. So it is what it is. Arkansas didn't look great most of the year. They got drilled by an Illinois team Kentucky just beat earlier in the year. Now they're in the Sweet 16. It just is what it is. I'm not fretting it, and there's something to be said, in my opinion, when the best teams all year play like that in the tournament. Mm-hmm. I actually kind of favor that. Now, speaking about Steph Curry and the transfer portal, sure. I mean, Steph Curry's a generational talent. He obviously more than likely would have transferred to a school. And here's the thing about the transfers. Is it a lateral move or is it an upgrade? I think there's a difference between someone transferring from Clemson, let's say Clemson to Texas Tech. You're going from a high major school to a high major school. You're not going Clemson to UK, Clemson to Kansas, Clemson to insert blue blood. I think that's a different type of move because that's a move where you're trying to elevate yourself on more of a national level. And then you have the kids who may be at the Bryants this year, stand out at Bryant, end up transferring to, let's call it, in Arkansas next year because they have Tyson food money. You get paid. You're not going to play in the NBA. I think it's a moot point. I think something because there's not any drama, a lot of drama coming out of March Madness right now. I'm still good with the transfer portal, and I'm still good with the results so far going into the Sweet 16.
Yep. I again, we'll see what happens going forward, but I will say and comment off of what you said, having the best teams all year are now advancing into the tournament, and that means that the games are only going to get better. So I am excited for the quality of gameplay we're going to have because, yeah, you do have those Cinderellas, that are able to make these runs, unexpected runs against the odds. But then, when you get, like a St. Peter's or, Stephen F. Austin that runs into your Kansas or your Villanova or UNC in the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, and then just get steamrolled. That's not really that fun.
I'm not trying to be a homer to the Kentucky, but when we're looking at the Midwest region, there's something to be said about having your 1, 2, 3, 4 play each other in the Sweet 16. They played to their seed. They were given that seed for a reason. They won the games they were supposed to. And now the spacing, in my opinion, unless you have like those, Kentucky, Duke, was they didn't do well, but those like generational teams, the margin of difference between your 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s, I mean, they can come down to anywhere from 4 or 3 to 5 losses. And when you really want to break that down even lower, like how much point of margin they actually lose by in the regular season, what was the circumstances, the teams are pretty on par. And so with that being said, when I think you get to like those 1, 4, 2, 3 matchups, those are going to be great ball games. Mm-hmm. Spreads are going to be a little tighter. Teams are going to have a chip on their shoulder. We're getting into bigger stadiums, bigger atmospheres. Looking at the Midwest, there's going to be in Indianapolis. You're going to have Purdue, Kentucky, Tennessee, all in Indianapolis. Houston travels well, but 3 of the 4 schools are in day trip driving distances. We're talking you don't even have to get a hotel. You just drive up. You could drive home and make it back 24 hours after that to the next game, the next session. So I like it. And I'm really interested, Dan, looking at that Texas Tech Arkansas matchup, because I believe in our last show I kind of talked about how I don't really believe in Texas Tech or some of those Big 12 teams, Iowa State, for example. Mm-hmm. So I'm really interested in that Arkansas Texas Tech game because I'm somewhat scared Calipari could pull this out and find himself in the Elite Eight, and it's gonna be weird for me.
You want to talk more about Cal making it past first weekend, and beating his rival, one of his rivals, Rick Pitino. That was an awesome game. That was a slugfest of defensive giants. I think both teams shot well under 30% from 3-point, and Arkansas bully ball.
The thing about Calipari, and I don't want any of this to come off as me being a hater. This is just from watching 15 years of Calipari. I saw a world where he could beat Bill Self. He's done well against Bill Self, and 2 years ago, the same team that lost to St. Peter's went into Fog Allen and rolled a number one, or they were a top 3 team, I believe, Kansas team by 30.
Mm-hmm.
And Calipari, hey, fun fact, Calipari's been running the same offense, the same defense, man-to-man defense, same dribble drive offense for 15 years. The only thing that changes are the players. But as far as the offensive scheme and what they're trying to do does not change. He's had overwhelming success against Bill Self and a lot of these top-tier coaches on a consistent basis. So it didn't shock me. It'll be, especially a Kansas team that's down. Hunter Dickinson did not do them any favors. What you want to say about him personally, at the end of the day, like he's a big personality but not big talent. And he may have had good individual numbers that on paper may be appealing. At the end of the day, he did not really have any type of college success this whole time playing. And with that being said, though, so Calipari beating Bill Self, it is what it is. I believe it could happen. Now, going to that St. John's game, just with the vibes around Rick Pitino and him coming back in like BBN's arms, and I think the whole world's kind of shifted in viewpoint of Rick Pitino. Like just last week, people were saying that he was the greatest coach of his time, in the likes of Wooden and Coach K. No way he goes out and lays an egg to Calipari, right? There's no way that would happen. But at the end of the day, that 13 seed, that lower tier SEC team who night in, night out are playing athletes and have athletes, a team up in the Big East, I don't think they were used to that. They weren't prepared for that. And that's why you saw Arkansas kind of win that bully type game in that environment. And the guys just didn't execute for Rick Pitino. And that's how he gets to the Sweet 16. He couldn't do it by beating a Providence and Kansas State team or beating Oakland and whoever we would have played next. Like NC State, I believe. I believe if we would have beat Oakland, we would have had to play NC State last year. Couldn't do that. No, he just goes through Bill Self and Rick Pitino, the 2 seed. So it's classic Calipari.
So did Coach Calipari getting past first weekend, a year after being run out of Lexington, did that inspire the Cats yesterday afternoon when they took on Illinois? And they also made it past the first weekend for the first time in how many seasons?
Since 2019.
2019.
So a couple things, Dan. So Calipari was not ran out of Lexington. John Calipari left Lexington because he started shopping for jobs. He breached his contract. He was in breach of contract with the University of Kentucky by speaking to Arkansas and not raising that to the university. He breached his contract. He was actively looking for other jobs. When Kentucky found out about it and pretty much said, hey, like, you're gone, he tried to do a media thing where he was walking his dog, make sure all the cameras saw him. And while he was actively trying to get UK to rehire him and keep him, he was negotiating to stay. Thankfully, we have an athletic director who stands on business and didn't like the guy, and he had him breach a contract because that contract, he was a year away from getting $1 million for the rest of his life. He could have walked away, been on Kentucky's payroll, $1 million a year, had his own office, and been the ambassador forever. He walked away from that. We did not run him out. With that being said, it put a little bit of pressure indirectly on Mark Pope. Regardless if Calipari, he made it to the Sweet 16. If we would have went out there and lost to Illinois, I would have been upset, but I still would have felt good about where the program was headed under Mark Pope. He took a team from nothing. He's had injuries all year. His second best player is out with injury, not even playing, Jackson Robinson, and he was able to be competitive. So I've been happy with it. Same thing but a lot of stress for Mark Pope, I think even outside of John Calipari, was BYU making the second weekend because when he was because Mark Pope beating Troy was his first ever win in March Madness. So seeing his team that he was coach of for, 6 years or so, or he had at least 6 tournament appearances, make it to the Sweet 16 the first year after he left. I'm sure that added some more internal. BYU means something to him, given his faith. So I think there's like a lot of different angles, but they were, listening to some radio in Kentucky, they said the guy stood up super loose and they played free. And if you watch the game, you kind of saw we had some guys just shooting the rock from anywhere and just not missing. Kobe Bryant had a phenomenal performance, and I hope they didn't shoot themselves too much prior to the matchup with Tennessee.
So, speaking of that upcoming matchup with Tennessee, if I remember correctly, your Final Four was Auburn, Alabama, Florida, and Kentucky. All SEC Final Four with an Iron Bowl championship. And as that stands, you are very much trending towards having all 4 teams in the Final Four. Do you want to say anything about your picks? Make any edits, revisions based on what you saw this first weekend?
So I'm riding vibes right now. First off, I think that on the show, that was my Final Four. In actuality, on the Tournament Challenge app, I had St. John's. I had St. John's playing Louisville and Kentucky playing BYU, and Coach Pope beating BYU, Pitino beating Louisville, and then Pope taking the reins. But anyway, I'm really nervous about my wife's alma mater and their upcoming matchup because they're playing an institution that I've grown to be very fond of, and I'm kind of scared for the Tide. The Tide haven't played great those first 2 games, and you know how I feel about the boys of Brigham Young. So I'm kind of nervous for Alabama. I don't know. I think the over-under has to be 200 points. I think it's going to be an absolute electric record.
They're only 5.5-point favorites by the spread. Over-under is, 175.
I'd bet the over.
Hammer the over. Braxton's bets.
Braxton's bets. I did a really good job. I don't know if Gavin's in the chat right now, but I gave Gavin phenomenal bets. I told Gavin the bet of the century. The bet of the century was UConn plus 9.5. I said, that's the bet of the century. Mark it down. He bet it because we were in Florida on Hard Rock. He bet it. I did not. Why not? I don't know, but I did a really good job of just letting people know. That was the bet of the century. There's no way Todd Golden, in his first time being in this position in the NCAA tournament, was going to completely roll UConn. That was just kind of unrealistic in my opinion.
So while UConn lost their first tournament game in 2 years, they are still, I want to say, 14-0 against the spread.
Yeah, I mean, you don't bet against Danny Hurley, I'm sorry, I'm shifting gears here, still in March Madness, but this Auburn-Michigan matchup, can I say something?
Please.
I think Auburn beats them by 30. So I don't know what the spread on that is. I would imagine it has to be
8.5. Yep. 8.5 Auburn. Over under at 153.5.
I was gonna say it was probably gonna be like Auburn 10.5. I wouldn't be surprised if that got betted up a little bit. So I think Auburn rolls Michigan. Michigan played like Michigan does against San Diego. Another example of a team who was a possession away from potentially being a Cinderella. They came out and played well against Texas A&M, but I think Auburn rolls them. And I'm really – and you can go ahead and mark this down too if you're at home. I'm not – if you have a betting problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. But Ole Miss, Michigan State, Chris Beard, I think he's going to have a good hard reset week with his wife, and I think he's going to go out and absolutely roll Tom Izzo in Michigan State. Don't know what the line is. I'd imagine the spread is probably Michigan State around 3 or 4 points.
Yep, right there, 2.5 Michigan State.
Yeah, I would probably do a little Ole Miss spread and money line, just throw that together. Little 1-2 punch right there. I feel pretty
parlay pick from Braxton.
Yeah, I like that one a lot, actually. Ole Miss played really well. But again, Ole Miss beat a fraud North Carolina team that did make a slight run, and then a fraud Iowa State team that I never believed in. And then, I thought Richard Pitino had a chance against Tom Izzo there for a better half of that game last night. I don't know if you were able to watch any of it.
Michigan State, New Mexico. I unfortunately was not able to watch that one.
Rick Pitino was there. I don't know if you saw the pictures of Rick Pitino and the young woman standing behind him.
No.
Please, you haven't seen that?
No.
All right, so you need to.
I'll Google it right now. What should I throw?
Google Rick Pitino New Mexico game.
Rick Pitino New Mexico. Oh, it is the first hit on Google. Oh, he's got a real shit-eating grin on his face wearing that scarf.
And what's to his left, Daniel?
I'm not getting a good one here.
I'll have to send it to you after, but.
Oh yeah. I wow.
Total slick Rick move.
Very, very intelligent woman sitting right behind his right shoulder. Intelligent.
Shout out Slick Rick. No, that was great. I thought they had the aura on their side last night after I saw that.
Oh, man. I did have to bring him up. That's been the highlight of at least me watching March Madness, the aura Amir Khan out of McNeese. And that is just – I love that. That team has so much fun, that entry. And, I mean, he's got NIL, I think, with Buffalo Wild Wings now.
He got a Topps made a baseball card for him.
And now he's transferring with his coach to NC State. Is at least one report out there.
On 3 Sports made a graphic like he was a high school 5-star committing to transferring to NC State. Yeah, to follow Will Wade to North Carolina State. He's a manager.
He's got swagger. He is the aura.
I think NIL does a lot of good things. I think this is an example of come on, and this is a very specific example where I think NIL is good. But Amari Williams, Kentucky center, he's from England, and apparently he eats some type of English breakfast or breakfast cereal, English breakfast cereal, and people thought he didn't play well the first game against Troy, and then he came out that wherever they were in Milwaukee, he didn't have access to the cereal, and so he was kind of off his pregame routine. Where NIL is good is a restaurant or a grocery store in Lexington heard this and said, "Hey, we have all this cereal we're going to give you." That's an example of hell, it's a feel good NIL. Give the college kid the cereal he likes because he's playing for. But you got managers out here getting baseball cards for what?
I love it. I think it's great. I love it. It's college.
It's so stupid.
Hyping up the manager that is purely college.
They had him sitting next to Spike Lee. Spike Lee and Aura King.
Spike Lee's probably making a movie about him.
What are they talking about? They have nothing in common. Nothing at all.
Maybe he's a film major. We don't know.
All right. So before we transition out of March Madness Day, I just kind of want to go through these games. I want to have you let's pick them real quick, and then I got some personal stuff I want to talk about, non-sports related. Okay. All right. We'll start in the South region. Auburn, Michigan.
Auburn. That's easy. Next.
Ole Miss, Michigan State.
I know you already said that you have Beard. I'm going to go Izzo.
Okay.
I'm going to take Spartans.
East, we got Duke, Arizona.
I'm going to go Duke. Cooper Flag, man from Maine, got the first weekend under his belt. I like Duke.
BYU, Bama.
We got Kaylee in the chat. Only person that's submitted a chat so far. Chat, if you want to contribute here, I got to go Roll Tide.
All right. Headed down to the west, Florida, Maryland.
I'm gonna go the upset here. I'm gonna go Terrapins over Gators.
Terrible pick. Texas Tech, Arkansas.
Terrible pick. I think Cal's gonna keep rolling. I think he's, out of the chains of Lexington, freewheeling in Little Rock. I like Arkansas or Fayetteville. Where are they? Fayetteville, Arkansas, right?
They're somewhere down there. All right, give me Midwest, Houston, Purdue.
Gotta go Houston.
Cats and Vols. Who we got there?
I think Cats are gonna make it. This would be their third win over the Vols.
Yeah,
they're gonna do it. They're gonna win the third game. I know it's hard to do, beat a team 3 times in a season, but they got their number.
Yeah, I believe 2019, the last time we made it to the second weekend, is when we lost to Auburn in the Elite Eight. And ironically, that was us playing Auburn for the third time that season. We were 2-0 going into that game, which gave Auburn their first Final Four. Anyway, all right.
Going back, we got Miss Patsy. I'm probably butchering this. Gudgel. Go Cats.
That's right. Go Cats. I love you, Mimo. All right. So let's pick your Final Four here. The Elite Eight. We got Auburn and Michigan State. Who you got?
Wardam.
So you got Auburn moving on to the Final Four. You got Maryland and Arkansas.
Yeah, I don't like that matchup that I picked. That does not sound like it's going to happen. Okay.
I will fade you and say you go 0 for 2 on those picks.
I'm gonna. You know what? Cal.
Right,
he's going to make it back to the Final Four. Pigs over Turtles.
Okay. Duke, Bama.
Roll Tide. I want that Iron Bowl.
And then Kentucky, Houston.
Cats. Mark Pope. Pope is hope.
I love that. All right. Auburn, Arkansas. Who you got, Dan?
Ward Ham.
All right. Duke and
we did the Duke. I picked Bama, didn't I?
Oh yeah, Bama, Kentucky.
Kentucky. This is the Bear Bryant showdown.
Can I say something about the Bama-Kentucky matchup?
Please. Yes, I need some help here.
A lot of talking heads are going to tell you it's going to be hard for Kentucky to beat Tennessee 3 times in a season. What if I told you how hard it is to beat a team 4 times in a season, which is what Alabama would have to do in order to advance to the final or advance to the national championship?
That's a great point. I think, those statistics, it's March, UK.
It's Kentucky playing – who'd you have? Arkansas, Auburn?
Auburn.
Kentucky, Auburn.
We're really making a push to get into that Kentucky market. Cats, national champions.
I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm gonna make sure this is clear. If Kentucky wins the national championship, Daniel, that will be one, I'll cry. And then I think we can go ahead and lock in there's going to be something purchased in honor of Mark Pope and displayed in my home, or there's going to be a shrine made. There's going to be something done. I can just cry thinking about it.
That's a good segue, Braxton, thinking about buying things in relation to results in national championship tournaments. We're going to take a quick detour here before we talk about MLB opening day into Braxton's bets. And really what this category is about is our bet from the college football playoff.
Are you coming to collect?
I'm coming to collect. I wore my blue PFG. I think it'll look real good in burnt orange.
All right. So it's okay. Let's talk about it because you're not wrong.
I'm not.
So I owe you a Texas PFG.
PFG, Peter Millar. I would just say, a classy piece of burnt orange apparel with Hook'em.
I think based on the market price, you're probably going to get PFG there.
Okay. All right.
Now, are you a betting man? You want to do the little double or nothing situation?
I can't turn that down.
Okay. So what if I told you Kentucky makes it to the Final Four?
Okay.
If Kentucky makes it to the Final Four, you know what? I'll get you your Texas PFG. If BYU beats Bama, I'm calling Mormons over Bama.
Okay.
I get my Mormons t-shirt. Are you confident in that?
So I still get my burnt orange.
I'm paying up on Texas. Now this is a new side bet.
News. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because the last time I rode with the Mormons, it cost me.
All right. So if Mormons beat Tide, if Mormons roll Tide,
correct,
then we'll get you some BYU Cougar gear.
And if the Tide beats BYU, I will get you a Alabama sticker.
Okay.
So I think I have 2 of those in my bedroom right now.
What about, and I was actually going back through the, I like to listen to the tape, try to get better each time we record. Went into the archives of previous episodes. What happened to that Alabama wreath? Was that ever put back up on the Lewis front door after the Vanderbilt Alabama game?
No,
it's not.
We transitioned to seasonals after that.
Gotcha.
We've gone seasonal since then. We have an Easter one up now. That I forgot we were recording when that happened. That was the funniest. And I remember I was just laying on the floor in the living room watching it, just laughing. And Kaylee was like doing like the dishes and just
Kaylee's just taking a ricochet right now. I apologize, but I was laughing it was very fun re-listening to those episodes.
She fired Kaylin to board 5 times. And in language that we can't repeat on this.
No.
I'm joking, Kayla. She was not a happy girl, but yeah, you know what, Dan? I'm gonna start looking at Texas gear for you. I'll pay up, and we don't have to do the Mormon Bama side, but I really just kind of need to buy myself something BYU, because speaking of BYU, Colin Chandler, who plays for Kentucky, did you see the logo 3 he pulled up with 21 seconds on the shot clock and just drained it against Illinois?
Yep, it was pretty cocky.
People were nervous that he was going to leave Kentucky because he had his 2-year. He was a 5-star recruit and he had a 2-year mission. He was committed to BYU, followed Pope. People were scared he might transfer. His wife posted on Instagram because they're getting married in May, and she said she's excited to start her life in Lexington. So we're getting like a Mormon connection going.
I was going to say that's a good point, Braxton, because Cal even had a 30 for 30, one and done, and it was all about Kentucky, the one and done. Bring in Pope. Are we looking at an older demographic of star players that a little more mature, a little stronger, coming to Lexington after some foreign missions?
There's a world where like 33% of our roster is married, and we might start having
that's a big culture shift.
We might start having like players' kids in the layup line. Yeah, I don't know. There's no telling. They might start having kids at 18, and then they'll end up their senior year when they go out for senior night and have a 4-year-old out there. Who knows? That's a good adjustment. So Braxton's bets. So now we're going to follow up, see if I ever pay up on that. I'll probably.
And I have to do this for Gavin too. Is Gavin going to get his trophy?
He did not get it last weekend. I think you'll get your Texas Longhorn PFG, and Gavin will get his trophy whenever Colin, the producer, shows up to work.
Okay. And more on Colin later. More on producer.
More on Colin later. We'll see which happens first. Tune in next episode to see if any 3 of those things happen. Speaking of paying up, can I talk to you real quick about a sports finance question I have?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so we've talked about this on air, off air. I think we talked about it a lot last week. I like sports video games. We played a lot of sports video games together while we were in Europe. So MLB The Show came out, and I really wanted to buy. So on Xbox, if you're not familiar, MLB The Show is just traditionally a PlayStation game. They started releasing it for Xbox back in MLB The Show 21, I believe, and it's always free on Game Pass. I paid the $15 a month for Game Pass, so the last 4 installations of MLB The Show I haven't had to pay for directly. This year, you have to pay for it. So I log in to the game store. I'm about to pay it. I'm expecting it to be $49.99. Like every brand new video game in the history of my lifetime has always been $50. Daniel, it was $69.99.
Inflation. That's tough.
I want to play this game more than anything I've ever wanted to do in my life. Now, Kaylee might disagree, but I don't play as much video games as I used to. So the price the price matters a little more as far as like what I'm getting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pull the trigger on it, and I don't know why. Like $20 is getting in the way.
And this is just the standard edition, not like your like premium where you get, I don't know, X amount of like tokens or like a piece of a jersey or
nary a token.
Okay.
Is it
no extras?
No. Is it irrational that I won't splurge the extra $20 for a game that I really want to play? It's almost a principle thing for me.
I think it is a bit irrational, as you are receiving a captain's salary in the United States Army and should be able to go out and buy a $69 video game. And yeah, it hurts a little bit, but don't think twice about it if it brings you happiness. But that's wow, 69. That's how do kids like pay for that? Like video games are kids games. Like I remember scraping like so many nickels together mowing lawns to buy, like NCAA football, and I would get maybe two video games, new ones like a year.
Well, that was back in the day when you go to GameStop.
Mm-hmm. The used games.
You bought the used games, or you would trade in 5 other games so you could afford to buy the new one.
That's right. That's
not a thing anymore. It's this new generation.
Yeah.
Generation
digital games. Yeah.
They're killing it.
I understand based on principle, but I would encourage you if you really want to play it, pull the trigger. Well,
speaking of baseball, you got opening day on there. I think we're a little late to opening day because apparently that happened in Tokyo. Like
those games didn't count, did they?
Yes, they did.
That was real.
The Dodgers are like 2-0 right now. Ohtani's already leading the league in home runs.
But I thought they played like a Japanese like national team.
No, it was the Dodgers and Cubs. I mean, the Dodgers. I know,
so much for being real authorities on sports.
Dodgers and Cubs. I might be wrong. I think it was a 2-game series. It might have been 3. Okay. I at least know 2 for sure. And I'm pretty sure the Dodgers won both. I might be completely wrong.
No. Well, go ahead.
I mean, to be honest with you, I could care so much less about the Dodgers. I've made that very clear on here. The Cubs, I'm indifferent. But looking at opening day, your Red Sox are playing at Texas. Mm-hmm. Any strong thoughts on the Sox going into the year?
No, it's an exciting year. I mean, we touched on this last episode with the revamped rotation. Brought in Alex Bregman, got the young guys coming up through the farm system. It's going to be an exciting year, and I think that they're going to challenge for top of the AL East. And if they don't win the division, at least make a run for a wild card spot, maybe make some noise in October. That would be a successful year for the Sox, and I think barring any injury. That's going to happen. And let me pull up the schedule. Who do the
Padres.
Braves? Padres. Okay.
At San Diego, which I'm pretty sure is where it ended last year. Chris Sale's got the bump for us. Opening day starter this year.
Mm-hmm. Cy Young Award winner, Chris Sale.
Right. Had the loss of Max Fried to the Yankees. I wasn't a big Max Fried guy, but I'm excited for the Braves. Jurickson Profar, we added him. Hopefully our guys can stay healthy. We've already had some injury bugs pop up. Sean Murphy's out for like the first 6 weeks. I think Austin Riley got hit by a ball in spring training in the hand as well. The Braves cannot get out of the way of injuries. On paper, if you look at the Braves lineup, I would argue it's the best lineup in Major League Baseball. Their bullpen, you can't say the same for, but as far as lineup and offensive firepower goes, it's a top 2, top 3 lineup in baseball if it stays healthy. That's always going to be the crux for the Braves. It's a long season, 160, 2 games, 61 games, 60 games. So, long season.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to see us win the NL East once again. I don't want a situation where we're, within 5 games of the Phillies or the Mets coming down the stretch. I just want to see us pull LA early, maintain that, and give us a little bit of a cushion when those injury bugs do pop up. And as it's going to be a full season of our bullpen developing, in my opinion. I'm interested to see how that goes. We had some late signings. Got Craig Trimble back. Jesse Chavez for the 5th time in 5 seasons. We've released him after the year. He's gone to another team's camp and has gotten released, and we've picked him up, and he ends up coming and being just an absolute dog for us. He'll probably start on the minor league roster, but expect him to come back up. He was supposed to retire last year, but he's back. I'm fired up for the Braves. I'm excited for it. Hopefully we get off to a good start in San Diego.
So we won't get into, picking games for opening day. Like you said, long season. But how about we make some predictions for end of season? AL, NL pennant, and then we'll go MVP, rookie. Well, no, it's rookie of the year. MVP and Cy Young.
Okay. So in the American League, I want to go with the Sox, but I feel like that'd be too much of a homer pick. So I'm going 180, heel turn. Give me the Yankees.
Yikes. That one hurts. I'm going to go Detroit Tigers.
Detroit Tigers.
Yes.
Okay.
AJ Hinch, hell of a manager. He made some noise last year. I think this year they make it over the hump and win the AL.
Fair enough. Looking at the National League, this is going to be a homer pick. I think the Braves find their way back into October and battling out with the Yankees for World Series.
I'm going to go NL East rival. The New York Amazing Mets are going to make it through.
Little Subway Series, World Series?
No. Wait, you think – no. The Detroit against New York?
Oh, I picked the Yankees. My bad.
You're good. So, yeah, I got Detroit against the Mets, and that will be new. The Detroit won in 2006, so – the Mets haven't won since '86, so yeah, some new blood atop the baseball world.
Fair enough. MVP, I'm going with a 90% healthy season. Ronald Acuna gets MVP, which is going to lead us to getting that NL pennant.
Say that one more time.
Ronald Acuna. I think he's going to be healthy 90% of the year. It's going to be what ultimately gets us back to the World Series.
I mean, this is unfortunately a chalk pick for the NL. He's back on the bump, pitching again. You can't bet against Shohei Ohtani. I mean, what he does, he is going to be the most valuable player in the NL.
And he's always gonna have the sports writers and all the things on his side. Cy Young, AL
MVP.
AL MVP. I'm a ride with the Yankee. Give me which one do I want? I was watching Bob Does Sports. They make good content. I don't know if you've seen any of their content, Dan, but they make good content. They had some Yankees come out and play with them. Give me the man at shortstop leading the Yankees to my World Series. The new Derek Jeter. Give me Anthony Volpe, New York's own, playing at shortstop.
If you put some money on him, I bet his odds can't be that good. So you can make some serious coin if that were to come true in November.
Might be one of the youngest MVPs in a long time too.
That's
that
right.
Might be completely false. You can fact check me on that.
Okay, I'm gonna go Bobby Witt Jr. from the Kansas City Royals, small market team. He's
a good ball player.
He's a hell of a ball player. He stays healthy. I think he's gonna surpass Judge, and he's gonna win the AL MVP. Probably first of many.
NL Cy Young, give me Paul Skeens.
I think the first time we're going to agree on a pick, Paul Skeens.
AL Cy Young. Give me. Gosh, I'm really stretching my knowledge of American League pitchers right now. I'm gonna stay with the Yankees. Give me Carlos Rodon.
All right. I'm going to make a homer pick here. Garrett Crochet, Boston Red Sox. He's finally got a team that can put up runs for him, and we'll have support the rest of the rotation and in the bullpen.
I'm fired up for it.
Yep.
The last 6 years, it's been fully baseball season by now for me. With Kentucky advanced into the team, I'll be able to watch on Thursday, watch the Braves. More on that later. I think I'll be able to watch the Braves. I got to log into my 30 different apps.
Right.
I got
multi-factor authentication.
I got to pay $20 to 4 different entities to watch the game on Thursday, but I'll figure that out. I'll watch the game on Thursday, get me ready and fired up, take my mind off things for Friday's matchup against the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm fired up for baseball season, and I'm sure you are as well, because that's the good thing about March Madness being this time of year, because they can always fall back on baseball season as soon as it gets knocked out. I'm fired up for it. The grass starts smelling a little better outside. The breeze hits you a little different. Seeing an American flag waving around just makes you feel a little more patriotic when you know there's a ball game going on near you.
There's just something to do every night. Like, you know that your team, more likely than not, is going to be, on TV, on the radio. And for me, baseball is the most easy, casual, sport. And it's great background. And I love it. Great, run, workout too. Have on the background making dinner.
Unfortunately, I signed up on the A list, which is the Atlanta Braves wait list for season tickets, and being an A list member about 3 or 4 years ago. This past week, my number got called for season tickets. Season tickets had to be purchased by last Friday. They notified me. They notified me on Wednesday. What they told me from talking to the guys, so they didn't have the full gamut of options. They only had what was left options. Ironically, what was left options were more of the most expensive ones. Since I got called so late, they told me that if I didn't select them this season, they would defer me till next year. So next year I'll have a first come for an availability. I did not pull the trigger. Quick math, looking at the ticket prices for 80 home games, it was going to be.
I was going to say, if you're having issues pulling the trigger on $69 for MLB The Show, at sticker price of season tickets.
I think the math on 5 seats, 4 seats for 80 games was going to run me, if I got the cheapest option they had, was around $13,000. 50%, which had to be paid within the 48 hours of me saying yes, and the other 50% due April 15th. Did not pull the trigger. But I was honored to be back because, I was a Kentucky football season ticket holder, so I was honored to be back in the game.
Yeah.
I was dabbling in the game.
That was awesome. That was always like your parents are rich thing for me. Like, if your parents had season tickets, you knew your friend. So it's pretty awesome at a pretty young age. You're now in the mix to be a 2-time season ticket holder across sports.
Multi-sport. And the thing is about baseball, and I talked to my dad and I talked to Kaylee about it, is for us to Atlanta, it's a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
And you really and maybe you can do I can do this next year. You have to put in the legwork of you almost need to make an Excel sheet of all the home games. What games can you make it to? Break that down to cost analysis of that. And then we're not even talking, for us 4 hours away for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. You get off work at 3 on Friday, you're not making it to the 3rd, 4th inning. We're not even talking about Atlanta traffic yet.
Right.
It's a little too, you could come back after the game. It's a little too far for that. So now we're talking 2 nights of hotels. We haven't even talked parking yet. And I think baseball might be one of those sports where season tickets really make sense for people who are kind of and it depends on the market 100%.
Right.
Because being 2 hours away from Kansas City, season tickets is a lot different than being 2 hours away from the Yankees.
Right.
So I think it really comes into proximity. I think 4 hours from Atlanta, you're really kind of pushing it as far as, especially when the money matters a little bit to you. I think you're a little too far out for it to make sense.
And how's the secondary market for Atlanta? Like, I mean, would you be able to make like anything, or at least break even, or are you kind of take a wash?
With the season tickets that are available, I think you could probably come out no more upside down, maybe 2,000, because you'd have to go ahead and accept, like, I would not get to watch the Braves play the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I would not get to watch the Braves play the Mets. Those are the ones you'd have to sell.
Yeah.
I'd get to watch the Braves play like the Marlins and insert random like AL team that comes. That's not the Yankees or the Red Sox.
And you're hoping they make the playoffs. Like, you can't make like that Wednesday divisional round game.
Well, in playoffs doesn't count for season tickets. All that does is gives you the access first. Yeah. So yeah, you're really going in for something there. If I was a little older in life and maybe lived within an hour and a half, it'd make more sense. But we're PCSing all the time, and you got 60-day field problems that pop up, and it's risky, to say the least. One day it'll happen. That's exciting. I believe you told me that, but I forgot that your number got called. That's exciting. It was exciting, but Dan, I think we're coming up on an hour. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad we were able to do a consecutive week show. It's really fired me up. We are up on the hour, but I think we can extend really briefly. And I did put up like 2 personal topics, and we'll do a dealer's choice for you now. And I put them up because I think these are 2 things that you have much more experience than I do. But topic 1 is I am going to Nashville. Driving up there Thursday night over the weekend to do some apartment hunting. That's where I'll be moving in the May time frame. Or I found out this past week that I will be attending my first military ball. Dealer's choice. Yep. I want Nashville. Okay, we will. The ball's not for a bit, so we will more on that and producer Colin in future episodes, because I need you to just like tell me what I'm in for, because I have no idea what goes on at a military ball, and I have a lot of questions. Sure, I get that, and producer Colin will probably be able to give some really good insight as well. More on that later. So Nashville, tell me about it. So Nashville, Dan, someone who's lived in that area most of their life, it's grown up to be a whole thing. And when I say it's a whole thing, it's not quite so how can I say this? For example, I want to go to a Braves game. The only thing preventing me from like fully committing to like, hey girls, it's 9 a.m. on a Saturday, we're going to the Braves game tonight, is like the thought of dealing with that traffic, right? Like that's really the only limiting thing. Like everything else, once you get to the Battery, it's great. Nashville is not quite that bad, but it's getting to the point where traffic, if you're not in the immediate downtown, midtown area, is enough for you to like second guess going to that bar or that restaurant. So it's not Atlanta, it's not Chicago, but it's, if that's the majors, it's in AAA. So you got traffic going for you. And then once you get there, Broadway is turned into a place where sorority girls and bridesmaids, and they all go there at the same time, and they're all doing the same thing, which makes you feel like you're constantly having like deja vu, and you can get really turned around on street corners because you just saw 10 girls in pink short dresses and white cowgirl boots, but you turn the corner and now there's 10 more, and they're all wearing the same thing. Sounds great. They're all drinking the same thing. You got the stupid things going down the road where you got to pedal and drink. The pedal pubs. Those get in your way. They'll run up your Uber tab. The food's overpriced. The beer's overpriced. But once you get down there, it's kind of fun if you have a good crowd. I never had a bad time in Nashville. I enjoyed the Midtown area, closer to like Vandy's campus. Beer's a little cheaper. Same idea. Like you're going to like bars and honky tonks that have the live music. Yeah. Have all the same amenities. It's just not the Jason Aldean, the Kid Rock, the Tootsies. Now, the most redeeming quality, though, especially as someone like you who's single in the area and kind of have like disposable income down there to really have fun and enjoy it, even as military too, this will be good for you. They're really good about military and ticketing
Oh,
for both the Titans and the Predators.
okay.
And one of the most fun things you'll be able to do, and I think you could find yourself like really because you're anticipating living downtown Nashville,
Yeah, I have
is
some apartment showings downtown
the
Nashville.
back in the day, if you'd show up to Predator to Bridgestone Arena, which I don't know if you're oriented, but Bridgestone Arena is on
It's on
Broadway.
Broadway. Yeah.
Yeah, so used to be if you get to Bridgestone like 2 hours before pucks dropped, you showed a military ID and you told them how many tickets you wanted. And some games you'd have lower ice, 15 rows up. Some games, upper level, but there's not a bad seat in Bridgestone. Uh, awesome stadium. There's nothing cooler though than going to a game, watching a hockey game in person, and then you walk out and just see those Broadway lights.
Yeah.
The roads closed off. You're bar hopping, catching some beers after the game. Really cool experience, and moments like that make all the traffic, the 20,000 bridesmaids, like makes it all worth it. You'll enjoy it, but that drive to work for you, coming home, is going to not be the most fun, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's I'm looking at 120 miles a day in the car.
And it's a very dangerous road. Like
Oh,
that stretch of interstate's pretty dangerous. Like the weekends will be great for you. Once you get home at like 9 or 7 p.m. on Friday because you're on traffic for 3 hours, it'll be great. But no, it's a good place. And the thing about Nashville is you have everything. You'll have access to NHL hockey. You'll have access to NFL football.
hmm
You'll have access to AAA baseball, which is also downtown and an awesome part. Like it's near Germantown, I believe. You'll have Nashville Sounds right there downtown. You'll have Vanderbilt, which is going to be also great baseball. Almost rather go to a Vandy baseball game, watch SEC baseball. You have Vandy football and college and basketball, which regardless of how good Vandy is, every SEC team that goes there to play basketball and football is going to be a good draw. So you have access to absolutely everything. You're
I'm
going to have
excited.
no shortage of things to do in your free time. I think you'll really enjoy it. And then I got another bet for you, and maybe this is when you'll get your Tennessee PFG. Will be at your bachelor party, because I'm calling that Dan meets his forever while in Nashville.
It's a bold bet that I don't hate.
I hope it happens. We need it to happen.
On that note, thank you so much to our amazing award-winning listeners and the chat. That's going to do it for Woody Lou Sports and You, episode 7. Subscribe, like, send to your friends. Any final words, Braxton?
I appreciate you all.